we're going to go ahead and get started. And you guys know, as people trickle in, they'll just jump into it. I do want to say something really quickly, just for some record keeping. I decided to do some things differently during my little getaway, my sabbatical. I have some thoughts about this call, and I feel pretty strongly about this. And I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. This Zoom is set up for people who are really serious about becoming prospecting masters, getting on the phone and making calls. And so a couple of new rules that I'm starting this week are if you're here in Zoom, your camera has to be on. You have to be willing to participate. I don't expect you to have all the right answers. If you had all the right answers, you wouldn't be on the call. So this is a class set up to help you train and get better at your scripting and objection handling. However, if you're in the position where you can't turn your cameras on, or you're just not willing to, you're not comfortable with that, I'm going to actually remove you from this call and encourage you to go to my Instagram page. And I'm going to put Instagram right here in the chat. I am live streaming this call on Instagram, so you can watch it. You'll be able to watch and hear everything we discuss. However, the rule moving forward is if you're going to be in the Zoom room, your camera has to be on. And I knew when I set that up last week, I risked, less people being on this call. I'm okay with that. Like I'm at this point now where we can read books all day on how to get a six-pack, but if we don't sit down to do sit-ups, it'll never happen. You guys have to be willing to put the work in. And one thing you guys know about me is I do this call. I don't do this call to make money. I do this call out of contribution because I didn't have this type of training when I started out 20 years ago in real estate, and I know it's really helpful. However, I'm giving my time, my resources. Other people are coming in here and they are actually plugging in. I need you to be willing to plug in. And if it takes you some time to get comfortable with that, I'm okay with it. And yet you're going to have to go into Instagram if you're not willing to turn your cameras on. So Sean, Denise, I need you guys to have your cameras on so that we can get engaged and get started today. I'll give you guys, in case you have to go comb your hair or, put on the ball cap, I'm gonna give you a minute to get that done. However, probably by 8:35, if the cameras aren't on, I'm going to remove you from the call with love. Know that I'm doing this for you, because if you're on this call and you're never participating, you're never gonna get started. And that's the whole point of being on this call. Get started and get out of your comfort zone. We got to learn how to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So Sean and Denise, I'll give you a couple minutes, and then I'm going to invite you to join me over on Instagram. Guys, let's get started. We got until 9:30. Anybody have any wins over this past week based on what you learned on the calls? Have you had any wins prospecting? Have you had any wins at a listing presentation using the scripts and objection handling that you've learned here? I'd be curious to know what's been happening out there. I'll wait. You guys are making your calls, right?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yep.
All right, tell me something.
I mean, I'm ready for objections. It's not a win just yet, but I did make a call last night.
Okay. And how'd that go?
So I called the FSBO.
Okay.
And I knew where I went wrong. I went off script. So I got information, but I didn't quite get the outcome that I wanted. So I know I need to call back, but some of the objections from a FSBO were he doesn't want a realtor because he doesn't want to pay a realtor commission. Fair. We already know answers for that one. But the other one was interesting. I was able to get the information of where he was going. So what was the motivation for him selling his home? He's already closing on another home in August. And I said, well, it's July. You don't have a lot of time. And he said, I have all the time I need. I don't need the money from this home to close on the next home. And the reason why we don't want a realtor is because we don't want a lot of people coming through our home. That was one objection. The other one was we're in the middle of packing, so the house is a mess. That's another objection.
Okay.
They don't want professionally done pictures because they feel that they're deceptive. That was another objection. And he's only setting up previews for people who have a pre-approval.
Okay.
That was
Is
the
that
fourth objection.
that's
Okay.
Mike, right?
Wait, say that one. Who said that?
Me, because I spoke to him too. His
Okay.
name is Mike. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this guy has a reputation. So let's handle a few of those. Listen, I don't really quickly though, Pam and Thomas, you guys have to turn on your camera. If I don't have cameras on in 2 minutes, I'm going to ask you guys to join me over on Instagram where you can keep your cameras off and don't have to participate. I'll give you a couple minutes, but I need cameras on. Let's handle this. First objection, like I don't want a lot of people through my home. That comes up. So if I'm throwing that out as an objection, like, hey, we don't want to list our property because we don't want to have tons of people traipsing through our house, how do we handle that?
So David, can I respond? Maybe perhaps they can say, can we set a time frame that works for you to have a window of opportunity for buyers to come through, 1 to 3 on Saturday, and just schedule the appointment with the agent?
I mean, that's one thing you could say, yes. Do you think that would work, or do we need to have a different tact on how we handle that? Somebody give it to me. David, what would you say, Mr. Gossett? You met with me. I'm a FISBO. I'm pretty serious about selling my home, but I'm telling you, I don't want people through my house. I don't want people coming in and out of my house. How do you handle that?
I would ask you to tell me more about that, David. I mean, you want to sell your house. Why is it that you don't want people coming through your house?
I mean, we're just pretty private people, and we're really busy getting this house packed up. It's really junky, and we just don't want to have to deal with cleaning up just to show the property. We have a lot going on right now.
Right. Okay. And remind me about your time frame, David. How soon do you need to be where you're going?
Listen, we're buying a house in August, so I ideally like to have this property sold, but I don't have to sell this one to buy my next one.
Okay, so you don't have to sell this one to buy your next one, but ideally you'd like to get it sold. What's stopping you from kind of getting the home cleaned up so you can move from this home to the next one?
We're in the midst of it. It's just busy, so we're getting to it when we can get to it.
Let me ask you, David, I'm not sure if this is for you, but if you're open-minded to it, would you be open to me suggesting a cleaning service to come in and kind of help you guys get organized, get that stuff boxed up and to your next place, or disposed of, because you may not be taking it with you to your next place? Is that something you'd be open-minded to?
Yeah, I'd be happy to take the recommendation if we can't get it done. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, let's, reach out to a few different companies that do that, get some price points and see if that will help you move the dial a little bit. But I really think that if you look at the schedule, the real estate schedule, usually it takes, a bank 30 to 45 days, even with a conventional loan, to close. We're at July 26th. You need to be there next month. So we're already, well into September. If we get an accepted offer today, why don't we get some offers, get some pricing from some moving companies and get you, get you ready to move to your next space.
Okay.
How does that sound?
I'm gonna pause you there. I thought that was good. And did you guys pick up on that? He's reading this book. If you guys have read the book, I know you heard it. What did he say from this book? And really quickly, the 3 people, James, iPhone 2, whoever you are, Curtis, phone cameras have to be on. I'll give you 2 minutes. If not, I'm gonna remove you and have you go to my Instagram page and watch the live stream. Cameras have to be on.
I'm driving, so I'm driving.
Tell me more
Bro.
about that.
That's the issue that I'm driving.
Wait, who is that talking?
It's James.
James, you're good. If you're driving, I want people to be safe. You're good. All right.
I don't know if this is for you, but
That's it. I'm not sure if this is for you, but that is one of the prompts in this book that I love to use. If you guys haven't read this book and you're not looking into that and using these prompts in your conversations, you're doing yourself a disservice. Get into this book. What did you guys think about the way he handled that? Lauren, what did you think about his objection handler for, hey, I can recommend some cleaning services, maybe some moving companies, get some boxes together, get you on your way?
I like that. That's when he went that route. That's where I was going. Like, do you need help? I know a company that'll come in here, kind of recommend something, be on their side to try to help them because they're overwhelmed. It's clear that they're overwhelmed. They don't want to win their house. They don't want to be viewed. They probably lived there for a couple of years. Maybe what other people in the block is going to make them look. I thought it was good. I would have gone that route too.
Okay. And who else has a different way they would handle that? Ashley Davidson, is there a different way you would handle that, or are you in agreement with what David said?
In agreement. I think he, kind of figured out what their hesitation was. Like it was more like personal. So I think he really figured out what that was a roadblock for them.
However, it sounds like this seller is really difficult. Let's say the seller is like, even when the house is clean, we don't want to have a lot of people through our house. We don't want to do the traditional way of having open houses and having tons of people come through. I don't even want to be bothered with you taking professional photos. I think they're deceptive. Like, what if they're being that difficult? What would you do, Ashley? What would you say to them to potentially get the listing? Any thoughts?
Should I do role play, or is this just general?
Sure, let's role play.
Comment?
So
Okay.
I said all that to you. I don't want people in my house, Ashley. I don't even want, if I listed it, I don't even want professional pictures done. I don't want to be bothered.
Okay, and I understand, David. And can I just ask, what about the professional photos and having people from, touring your house is you find you don't want?
I mean, I find the photos are deceptive. They look good when you see them online. You get to the house and it's nothing like that. It's kind of like online dating when you get catfish. I just don't. I just don't. I don't trust it, and so I don't really need to have someone come in with flashes and making the house look all bright and glamorous. I want it to be real.
Okay, and what if I said I had a photographer that does not make our photos look deceptive? It's not catfish style. They're true to what the property looks like.
I mean, we could talk about that, but at this point in time, we're not even ready. Like I said, we don't even want people in our house. We have so much we need to do, Ashley, to get the property set up and ready.
Okay, and what is it that you feel that you still need to do to get the property ready?
I mean, everything, everything. It's just a pigsty right now. We just have things. We're packing up. We're purging. We have things set up that we're donating. It's a lot going on right now.
Okay. Would you like assistance with maybe, hosting? I can host a yard sale, or if you want me to contact some movers for you, I'd be willing to help a little bit. I've done this for some of my sellers on a time crunch.
All right. So I'm gonna pause you there because you're gonna go down the same route that David went down, which I think is the right way to go. Let me ask you guys something. These sellers that don't want people in their house, we come across them all the time. I know I did, especially FSBOs, right? What was happening during COVID? Could we let people show the homes? Could people go see houses? No. Were we selling houses? What were we doing during that time that we could use when talking to a FSBO like this?
Video.
Yeah.
Pictures of video.
Yeah. I just find sometimes we got to listen to people. They're like, I don't want people in my house. Can we sell a house without somebody coming through?
Yeah,
we did it for 2 years. It's harder to do, but we did it for 2 years. Tell me, Pete.
I mean, we still had people going through houses though. We had the hold harmless. I feel like it didn't really last all that long. I'm not trying to contradict you because you are right. You can sell a house without tons of people going through it. That's the point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so if you have a seller who's pushing back on you, could you say something like, hey, I'm not sure if this is for you. However, I'm using David's line. During COVID, we had people and you really couldn't go in a house. And so what we were doing during that time to sell properties is we would pick a day, we get the house cleaned up enough where we could actually come through and do a video walkthrough, take some pictures. And I don't have to use a professional photographer if you're against that. I will tell you the benefits of using one. However, we can discuss that later. And you set it up where you do a video walkthrough and you can advertise the property that way. Could we maybe overcome that objection by giving them another alternative?
Yeah.
That's all I want you guys to think about is like, we have to have different things to bring as an option. What Ashley said and what David said is correct. However, if the seller's against that, then what are you doing? You have to have something else that you can use to overcome that objection. So think about that. Think about different ways that you can overcome that. I think what Ashley and David suggested is great. And I know it will work with most people, but you're always going to have that one person who's a stickler and they're like, nope, I don't want anybody in. So I appreciate that. And the other one, what was it? Deceptive. I don't know how to handle the photos being deceptive. Like I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know why someone would say that.
Hey, David, I have a thought about that. Do you think
me.
that's a motivation? Do you think that's a motivation thing? Like if you don't want people in your house, you don't want photos, you think photos are deceptive and you're the seller, not the buyer.
Right.
Like, I think I would have to dig on motivation. Like, do you really want to sell your house? Like, like by definition, selling your house is taking photos, letting people in.
Well,
You know what I mean? I would
here's
have to really question their motivation.
here's what I got from the conversation.
Yep.
Because we did end up going off script, and it ended up being more of an informal conversation just because of, you know, where they live, where I live, where they're going. I used to live in Florida, so it was a very friendly conversation. But what I did get, because I was speaking to the husband, was the wife was chiming in the background. She has lived in the same town her entire life.
Yes.
And I feel that it's an emotion, it's more emotional than practical.
Mm-hmm.
They are maybe still grappling, and he even mentioned it, you know, she's never lived anywhere outside of here. So I'm getting from the conversation that I had that there is some attachment to the home that they live in now.
Yeah.
And while the husband is being practical, like, no, we're moving to Florida, the wife might be like, it might be coming more from her. I don't want people coming through my house. I'm still cleaning. I'm packing up. You know, it could be embarrassing. I don't like people coming through my house when it's a mess. And so I think that they haven't, or maybe she hasn't come to terms with the fact that this isn't your house anymore. You know, it's your house, but you got to let it go, especially because you're buying a new one. And so I think it's just a follow-up conversation.
Okay.
I'm going to try to get her on the phone. And I think that might be what's holding it back. And Pete, in the chat, you're right. There was an objection towards approved buyers. I think there's a little bias there for possible buyers as well, but that's another conversation for another day.
Well, let me ask you this, and before I go to Lauren, Sinai, and Dominique, your follow-up. When are you following up, and how do you plan to follow up?
I am following up on Saturday. So I do have a handful of buyers that this would fit, but I've got to figure out a way to sell it to them because the pictures don't do it justice. It fits their criteria in terms of price range and, you know, number of beds, number of baths. It's in the right neighborhood, but they may or may not want to see it. You know, this conversation happened last night. So I've got to, you know, ask my buyers if they want to go see this. I don't know. I'll be honest. I'm not sure. They may or may not want to see it. So then what do I do? He told me it's okay to come by Sunday morning if I have a confirmed appointment with my buyers and a pre-approval ready to show.
Gotcha. Well, first of all, I would get on the phone with my buyer. I would show them the pictures. What I recommend, especially with a FSBO, I have found that when you do bring a buyer in, they see that you're really serious. And if you actually have a true buyer, bring that buyer. Have that buyer give feedback that you can pass on to that seller. And some of the feedback should be about the photos. Like they almost didn't want to come because of what they saw. It didn't seem really attractive. So I know that your concern is the photos are going to be deceptive. However, when you're selling your home, think about when somebody sells their car. They don't just put it out and put a for sale sign on. They get it detailed and they armor all the tires. They make sure it looks great. It's not about how you feel about the house. It's about attracting the buyers and getting people through the door. And so we got to win that beauty contest. It's a price war and a beauty contest. So maybe having that type of conversation would make a difference. Hold on 1 second here. Fran, how are you today? And Fade Smith, how are you? And Marsha Oliver, how are you? And the 973 number. Just wanted to let you guys know of a new rule that I have. Cameras have to be on. I have one exception, but cameras have to be on. If you guys just want to observe, you have to go to David Radney Push on Instagram and watch it on IG. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes. This is turning into more housekeeping than I thought it would be, dealing with the cameras. However, it's important to me. And I'm not doing this for me because I need to see your face. I'm doing this for you because if you are just allowed to sit on the sidelines, you'll never pick up the phone. The way you participate here is the way you participate when you're not here. And I need you guys to start plugging in for you. So I'm going to give some tough love. I'm going to give you a couple minutes, but if I remove you, know that you're welcome to come back. However, your cameras have to be on. Lauren, go ahead. I know you had your hand up for a minute.
I think you asked Debbie about the follow-up, and I think I would go there because now I think they need to make a connection with someone. I think a lot of that deal sounds very emotional. So I would show up like whatever the time is, like try to preview the home and if they have pictures up, it seems like they have pictures up, because my offer would have been like, all right, you don't want a photographer, let me throw the pictures for you. I probably would have gone with the scenario, let's put it on the market, let's have one open house or maybe 2 open house, you're out, like limited time, because there's been homes that I've even gone to preview with buyers that they're not showing it at all. They just have 2 open houses, final and best, the end.
Got it.
Just to
But
offer.
he has pictures out there.
They're just not
Yeah,
great
that's
pictures.
what I said. I
Just...
thought he didn't have any pictures when he said, when Debbie said, you know, he didn't want a professional photographer.
No,
but if he had pictures on there, yeah, that's not, because I would have offered at that point. Like, I think at this point, this seller, you have to kind of be compassionate and sell them you, and kind of like empathize and be on their side, because it sounds like it's a true emotional connection. And that's a feeling, right? That's, he doesn't want this, he doesn't want that. That's a feeling. So you got to get touchy-feely and hit, you know, strike a chord really to try to get in and get that next step with them.
Okay.
Would you agree? Is that what you got? Same objections from the seller?
Well, let me do a favor real quick. I want to move off of this particular person. We can come back to it later on if we have some more time. I want to quickly, I saw that a few more people's hands were raised, so I want to move on real quick. So now tell me what's your question? Or
no, I want to add up into this 3 things. Number one, I had it in the past. Someone said, I don't want this pictures for it's not good, it's deceptive. I said, no problem. Let me show you. I went around the house and took 20, 30 pictures. Look, you tell me what you like. You like this one, this one. Okay, on it. And I happened to be that they like my pictures. I said, can I put up this? So from the 30 pictures, they liked 10. And I used that one and finished. And they were okay with it. So I actually showed them, okay, let's just do it right now. Let's try this angle, that angle. Number one. The second thing is I will turn to them about feelings. What's your feelings about not getting ready? So once they start revealing more, could be this from my psychotherapy, I'm getting that, but you know, people tell it to me a lot of times that it is a part of therapy when it comes to selling a house. It's a lot of emotional attached, sometimes 30 years and 40 years down. The third thing I'll say, look, what's the most thing you want out of this? You're going to Florida and you want to do the most, you want to get the most out of your money to be able to do whatever you want. So if you're not going to do A, B, and C, if you're not going to allow to do pictures, all this, you won't, most probably you're not going to get your money's worth. So you won't have all this money when you're going to move to Florida. So by letting pictures and at least take a look at it, you may be getting an extra $20,000 to $50,000. Would you like to do that then? And that may change the entire picture, to them. They may change their mind.
It's very possible. Thank you for that, man. It's very possible you could change their mind. Dominique, what's going on?
Okay, this is just a question I think would be appropriate to say to the client, being that he doesn't want any pictures of his house, or what was the other thing he said? Oh, he doesn't want anybody coming to the property. Are you okay? I would say to him, are you okay with purchasing a property that you didn't see photos of or going inside of?
Yeah, you could. You could say, listen, if you were purchasing the property and your agent showed you a listing and they didn't have any photos on of the property, would you be comfortable making an offer? Would you be interested in that property? And yeah, they probably would say, no, I would want to see additional pictures. Yeah, most buyers are like you. They would want to see pictures as well, because that's the first impression. We got to get people through the door. And when they see you online, that's the first thing they're looking at is pictures. And if your pictures don't look great, or if you don't have any photos, they may just skip over and go to the property that does that. Yeah, absolutely something you could bring up. All right. Let's get into some objection handling. Matt Saporito, do me a favor. Throw me out a great objection and throw it out to somebody on this call. It can be FSBO expired. It can be a listing presentation objection. We're going to throw 2 minutes on the clock. I want you to choose someone, and let's role play.
Okay, Ramsey.
All right, Ramsey, unmute.
What up? I don't feel like paying buyer's agency commission. Yeah, Ramsey, I appreciate your time today, but you know, 6%, that's pretty steep. I'm really enticed to potentially I'd rather just give out 3%. I don't really feel like paying for the buyer. It's not my responsibility.
Yeah, I'm not ready for that.
And Ramsey, stay unmuted. So a lot of people aren't ready for that. Like, that's something that we may have to deal with pretty quickly here. My question, though, you may not be ready to handle it, but if you were sitting in front of a seller right now and you were actually at a listing presentation and this wasn't Matt, and the seller said, I'm not doing 6, but I'll pay your 3. You can't tell them I'm not ready for that. So what would you tell them? I know you may not know exactly what to say, but if you did know what to say, what would you say?
Well, you would need to offer some type of buyer's compensation so that the buyer's agent can attack a larger pool of people to come see your property.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, I mean, to incentivize the buyer agents, right? Like,
oh, I was playing.
Wait, say again?
I was playing. I'm sorry. I was like, oh, I don't know what you mean by that.
Oh, gotcha. So Ramsey, I mean, that's a good response, right? That's something.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're pretty much telling the seller is, you want to sell this home. We want to make sure we open it up to the biggest pool of buyers. In order to do that, we have to be willing to compensate the buyer's agents because most buyers are represented by an agent. And if we're not going to incentivize their agent, we're going to miss out on a lot of potential people who would purchase your home. Is that what you want? You were saying the right things. Trust your gut. A lot of times it doesn't have to be highly scripted. However, you have to have a response, and your gut response, I mean, could it be tightened up? Yes. But yes, I think what you said was going down the right path. Okay, your time is up there. Kim, give it to me. What do you have, Kim?
Damn, that's epic.
I know, man. I got that Oscar wrap it up music right here.
I get the Oscar thing going on. I appreciate that.
Kim, give it to me. What you got?
So, Matt, have you ever gone to an open house before?
Yeah, I've gone before.
So, if would you go to an open house where they're charging you $20 to preview the house?
No.
Okay, so let's flip that. Would you go to an open house if they paid you $20?
Pay me $20?
Yes.
I mean, who wouldn't?
Right. So how do you think the buyer's going to feel when they learn that they have to pay extra fee just to purchase your house while there's 3 similar properties that they're offering the compensation to purchase their home?
Yeah, but do I have to pay all of the agents?
Well, you can, I would, if, all the agents, what do you mean by that? I'm sorry, explain.
Well, the example you just gave me, I'd have to pay, we did an open house, I'd have to pay every agent $20.
No. So what I'm trying to say is that if we had an offer,
oh,
why wouldn't you want to? Can you understand that a buyer wouldn't go to a property where they have to pay for an open house, but yet if they're receiving, so it's the same scenario as why would they pay? Why would the buyer not consider another property that has similar features to yours that is offering the buyer compensation?
All right, let me pause there. Let's pause there because I hear where you're going, Kim. We got to tighten that up and tighten up that example. I like that you have an example to give. Matt's being a smart ass too. He's giving you a hard time, which I love. I love that because the seller may give you a hard time too. Ashley, how would you handle that?
All right, can we start from the top? I actually wanted
let's
to
do it. I'm on a roll with it. Let's go.
Yeah, start from the top, Matt. Give it to her again.
All right, Ashley, I appreciate it, but I see that there's, I don't have to necessarily pay for a buyer's agent. I'd rather just pay you. So yeah, if we can do it, I'll pay you your 3%, but I'm not going to pay. I don't really feel the need to pay a buyer's agent.
Okay. And did you know that you never had to technically pay a buyer's agent?
I've heard that before.
Okay. And what's important about not paying the commission to the buyer's agent? Is it just that you're paying the agent, or?
I don't know. I just feel like as a responsibility, like you came out and wanted to work with me, and I'm okay with that. But I don't know who these buyer's agents are, and why should I be offering up a percentage if I don't know who they are?
Okay, and that's totally fair. And can I just ask you a quick question? When you purchased your home, did you have to pay your buyer's agent?
No.
Okay, and that's what a lot of buyers may feel like as well. And with the way the current market is, some buyers, especially first-time home buyers, may not feel that they have the money to pay their agent. So have you ever heard of the fact that if you offer compensation, it tends to bring more eyes to the property?
No.
Okay, so right now with the way the market is, I'm showing the buyer's agreement. I don't have it next to me, but I'm just
I'm sorry.
a bit, but it shows here for when a buyer is represented by their agent, they can decide whether or not they're going to see a home that seller offers compensation. So that would bring down potentially your pool of eyes on your home.
So this is a buyer's agency agreement that you're showing me?
Yes, which will be required by all buyers to sign before they step foot in a home, whether it's virtual or in person, starting August 1st. So that will be determined with their agent before even seeing your home, whether or not
it's like in a couple of days.
Exactly. So we want to make sure you have enough eyes on your property. So let me ask, is it more important about the commission or what you net at the end?
Well, we're selling the house. I want to make money on it. It's a good time in the market.
Exactly. And if I could show you that even with compensating a buyer's agent, you'll still net at least what you're looking for, is that worth exploring?
Potentially.
Okay. I know my timer's about to run out.
But that's okay. Good job.
I just like to hear the music. I wasn't gonna stop. I wanted to hear the music.
He wanted to hear
So
the
wait, real quick, Ashley, how can you close that up? Go for the close. That's the only thing you were missing on that.
Thank you, Pete, for saying that.
I would say, all right, if I can show you, if I could just take maybe 15 minutes to walk through this and show you in person, would you have an issue signing?
Can I add what I think?
Go for it.
You had it right there. I think all you had to say was perfect. I recommend paying out 2.5%. Any other questions?
Okay.
You had it locked up. All you had to say is perfect. So in order to do that, I recommend we pay out 2.5% to a buyer's agent. Any other questions or whatever percentage you choose?
Okay.
Pete, good point. And guys, can anybody tell me what are the 5 steps for overcoming an objection? Just, you can unmute and tell me what are the 5 steps. Number 1.
Smile.
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 Number 2.
Acknowledge.
Wait. Acknowledge.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Repeat and approve.
Agree.
Number 3 is isolate.
Isolate.
Right. And then overcome. What's the final step?
Close.
Close, baby.
Close. And that's what Pete's talking about. We sometimes do a great job of overcoming the objection, and then we're just kind of sitting there. Close, what Pete said. You gotta close. And Ashley, I just wondered, you asked Matt this question. When you bought your house, did you have to pay? I was hoping you would ask him, Matt, when you sell this house, are you buying a new property? And Matt, I don't know if you're free to role play right now, but Matt, once you sell this home, are you buying something else?
Yeah. I
Okay.
definitely gotta buy something else.
So let me ask you, when you go to purchase your next property and you're meeting with the agent and they tell you, hey, I got 2 properties to show you. One property, they're paying my commission. The other property, you would have to pay my commission. Which property do you want to go see?
Oh, wait, they're paying your commission?
They're paying my commission at one property. The other property, you have to pay my commission.
So I don't have to pay you extras on top of my agreement with you?
Nope, not if they're paying me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can go see that property.
Yeah, so Matt, just the way you went through that with me, and once you realize that if you went and saw the property where the seller's compensating me, that's the property you want to go see. That's what buyers do with your home. When they see that you're not paying a commission, they're going to go see the homes that are paying a commission. And so I don't want to do you a disservice by putting you on the market and people don't want to show up and see your property because you're not compensating the agents. So why don't we do the right thing and pay out a fair commission? And what I'll do is show you that even after paying my commission, the way I market and price property, you'll make more money even after paying the commission to me and to the buyer's agent. If I can demonstrate that, I'm sure that wouldn't pose a problem for you, would it?
No.
So where I'm trying to go with this conversation, is he overcoming the objection? Where I'm trying to go with this conversation
he's being persistent, man. He's trying to close me on riding this quad right now.
Oh man, I'm not mad at that. You got a closer. He knows the 5 steps. But the whole thing is, when I was talking to Matt, guys, and I was trying to do it in a way that you guys could follow me, I got Matt to say, as a seller, if I was buying a house, I'm not going to go see a house where I have to pay the commission when I have the option of going to see a house where the commission is being paid by the seller. So when the seller says that, he's made the argument for me. And all I have to say is you're right. And that's why we need to make sure we're offering out a commission on your property, because we don't want to miss out on those buyers. So what we need to learn when overcoming objections is to ask questions that will lead the seller to the outcome that we want them to get to. It's all about learning how to ask really powerful questions. Angela, thank you for being so patient. I know she's sitting there like, is he ever, I have my hand up. What's up, Angela?
All good, all good. A lot of what's already kind of been said, I was gonna say as well, as far as leading him down the path of, thinking from his point of view and being a buyer. But I think it's always important in these kind of conversations to let the seller know you do have the option. So yes, he said, well, I don't want to pay. And you can say, no, you don't have to pay. You have basically two options. Option one is you don't offer a compensation to the buyer's agent, and then run down what typically would happen if that were the case. So that might mean your home might be on the market longer. We might not get as many buyers in to see your home because not all of them might be able to pay that compensation to their agent. And so, Matt, are you, based on the timeline we talked about, are you willing to have your home on the market a little bit longer in order to save money on that compensation? Or, I don't have it down perfect yet, but kind of lead him down that road and say, but the other option is you can also, you do have the option to offer that to another agent. And that way you're more likely to get more people into the home to see it, sell it faster, meet your deadlines, kind of go down his motivation. But I think it's important to say, yes, you do have the option. And if you go with this option, this is what could happen. If you go with this option, this is what could happen. Which option, do you still want to pick that option, or, make the seller feel like they're still choosing, not saying, well, I feel like you should go this way or that way. Here's what would happen if you go either way.
And I love what you said about like, you risk having your house on the market for a longer period of time. Angela, if you were talking to a seller and you said that, what would be the negative of letting their house sit on the market for a longer period of time? How could that negatively affect them?
So by having your home sit on the market longer, it could potentially open up the doors for buyers to want to negotiate the price more. And so when you're considering saving money by not paying a buyer's agent.
Can I stop you real quick? Instead of telling me that, I'm the seller, ask me some questions that will make me come to that same conclusion. Don't tell me, ask me some questions. So let's role play it as if you were asking me questions.
Okay. Wait, let's back up. What's the question again?
So it was all about like, if my house is sitting on the market for a long period of time, talk to me about how that can negatively impact what I sell it for.
Gotcha. So David, when are you, you've seen homes on the market in your neighborhood that are for sale recently, haven't you?
Of course.
And so has there been any homes that have sat on the market for a week, 2 weeks, a month that you've seen?
I mean, my neighbor down the street, their house has been on the market for months.
Really? Okay. And have you seen them change the price? Oh gosh, I'm going down the wrong way.
Well, no, stop. Pause for a quick second, because I like where you're going. I know you're going down the right route. So you're asking me right now, like, I've told you it's been on the market for months, right?
3 months, yeah.
What should you be asking me? Take a second to think.
What do you think? So with that home being on the market for months, why do you think they haven't been able to sell?
I mean, I don't know. It's probably overpriced. There's maybe something's wrong with it. I don't know.
Okay. So you're thinking that it might be something wrong with it, or that it's overpriced.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think other buyers might think the same?
Probably.
And so if your home were to stay on the market longer, possibly because you're not offering compensation to a buyer's agent, do you think other buyers would think the same thing of your home, that something's wrong with it or overpriced?
I mean, it's possible, yeah.
Okay. And so is that a risk you're willing to take?
So before you go there, what if you said, and if they thought something was wrong with the property, do you think they would ever offer full price? Do you think it's going to get to a point where they know something's wrong because it's not selling and the offers come in a lot lower than they should? Like, lead them down that road. Like you were doing well with the questions.
Gotcha.
Just keep going a little bit before you go to your close. And Angela, I will tell you this. You should have a script booklet with every script And then commission objections have several different ways to overcome every objection. And then you need to have another section in that scripting booklet, which is questions to ask around certain topics. So when it's, I don't want to pay a buyer commission, certain questions you should ask, right? And that way you have them in front of you. And by asking these questions, you're going to get the seller to come to the conclusion, yeah, maybe this isn't the right strategy. Because if we tell them it's not the right strategy, they're going to be like, well, that's your opinion. That's what you think. But through questions, if I can get you to say, well, yeah, maybe they think something's wrong with my house and probably they're not going to offer me what it's worth, then I can turn around and say, you're absolutely right. And that's why we need to do this and price it correctly and offer a great commission, because we don't want to create that narrative in the minds of a buyer or a buyer's agent. Because if they start feeling that way about your home, you're never going to get market value, right? Have those questions lined up. Good job, though. You pushed through it. And that's what this call is all about. So thank you. Thank you for playing. I appreciate that. Pete, what's up, man? Pete, then Matt, and then Cynthia. Pete can't unmute. Let me see. Let me see if I can get you. Ask to unmute. See if this works. All right. Let me go to Matt, then I'll come back to Pete. Go ahead, Matt.
I just had I had to double back because a bunch of you threw punches with me. Kim, I love where you were going with that. The way I actually use that one, I like not necessarily paying $20, but I tighten it up by saying, you know, what if we were to pay everybody that came to your open house? Do you think we would attract a lot of people? Yeah. All right. Okay. What if I were to tell you we only had to pay one of them?
Yes.
Right. Oh, what do you mean by that? Okay. Well, what if I were to tell you that of all of these people, if we tell that we're offering compensation, we only have to end up paying one of them, we can drive a lot of traffic to your home. Is that something that you want to get involved in and participate for the sale of your home? Right. And that's how I tighten that. That's how I just kind of tighten that up. So I just wanted to drop that for you.
Yeah.
Where you were going.
That's really good. Because where I was going with is if somebody in the neighborhood is offering the compensation and you're not, they're going to tend to look towards, and there's similar properties, they're probably going to go in that direction. But yeah, thank you. No, that's good.
Nope, that's no problem. And Angela, just so you know, like I wrote in the chat here, I don't know if you saw, a story is good here. So like if any of you guys are having trouble, you haven't practiced like buyer agency script or the 3%, I'm not really feel like offering compensation. Like if you don't have a quote unquote script, tell a story. The story, you know, tell a story from either something that you did or that, you know, another agent did, or that you heard here in script practice. Like use the story, because then that's going to build relatability. People like doing things that other people do. And so, or stay away from dumb things that other people do, right? So if you see your buddy jump off a cliff and he doesn't come back up, we're not going to jump off the cliff. So,
yeah, telling stories is great, and using prompts like feel, felt, found. I understand why you feel that way. I've had other people who felt the same way. What we found is that blank, 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 and you can tell a story with that found prompt. Peter, you able to unmute now? I know you rejoined.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I was just looking to role play that objection.
Okay. All right. Cynthia, I'll come to you in a quick second. And so Pete, what was the objection? I'm sorry.
I don't want to pay a buyer's agent.
Thank you. Pete, I don't want to pay a buyer's agent commission. I'm not willing to do that.
Okay. David, I completely hear what you're saying. And I'm just curious. I mean, aside from paying a buyer's agent, is there any reason we wouldn't, get started today?
No, I mean, if I can just pay you the 3%, I'm ready to go.
Okay, perfect. And that certainly is an option. And I'm just curious, I mean, what makes you bring up paying a buyer's agent? I mean, is this something like what makes you bring that up?
I mean, I was paying attention to that lawsuit, and I was told that we don't have to pay the buyer commission. So I figure if I can save that additional 3%, that's more money to put down on our next purchase. So, I mean, if I don't have to pay it, why would I?
Yeah, for sure. And that totally makes sense. So I was curious because, that's, what we're hearing a lot about. And there's actually a lot of misconception about how this whole agency agreement and NAR settlement actually works. Do you mind if I just take a minute just to kind of explain kind of some of the changes and what actually is happening?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So first of all, buyers have always paid commission. And so what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that is that the the buyer is always the one who comes to the closing with a bag full of money, right? So to speak, right? And from that money, it goes to the seller's agent or the seller for half a second and then gets paid back out to the buyer's agent. So the buyer theoretically has always paid commissions. They've just always been built into the price. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does when you put it that way. Uh-huh.
So with the settlement, I mean, there's really two main changes that are happening, and it's more about how agents get paid as opposed to what they're getting paid, right? The headlines, of course, want you to believe that everything's going down, but the reality is the two changes really are commissions can no longer be advertised on the multiple listing service, which is one, which my own personal opinion, I'm still not sure how that actually benefits anybody.
Right.
And two, buyer's agents are required to have a signed agreement with their buyer before they show any properties. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So similarly, how I'm sitting down with you, explaining everything that I'm going to do for you and why you're going to pay me what you're going to pay me, you're going to have this all laid out, right? So how does that actually work in the actual real world, right? So what's going to happen is a buyer is going to be looking at a couple of different properties. Now, David, let's say your property and a very similar property in price, condition, bedrooms, bathrooms are both on the market for $699, which we agreed is about where your home should be listed, right? So you with me so far?
I am.
So we have one property, which is your property, that you're willing to pay out a buyer's agency buyer's compensation to the buyer's agent.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other property, the seller is not offering a buyer's agency commission, right?
Right.
Now, the buyer has already sat down because we know it's required by law to have this conversation and has agreed to pay their agent a certain percentage of the sale price. With me so far?
Yep.
So the buyer ultimately has to make a decision, and they have to say, okay, well, both of these homes are going to give me what I need, but this house, I'm going to have, I don't have to come out with any additional money out of pocket, but this other house, I am going to have to come up with some money out of pocket on top of what I'm already paying. Which one do you think the buyer is more likely going to go towards?
The one where they don't have to pay. That's a no-brainer.
Of course.
Right.
Of course. And listen, I'm not saying that the buyer for your home wouldn't pay that buyer agency commission. What I'm saying is that we know that the more buyers we have coming through your home and making offers on your home, the better chance you have of making more money, the better chance you have of getting the terms that you want, and the better chance you have of this deal not falling apart halfway through. Because David, you do know that 14% of properties that went under contract in June actually fell back out and went back on the market. Did you know that?
14%?
14%. A little more, almost 15% actually.
I heard the market was so hot. That surprises me.
It is. It is hot. And listen, we're going to do very well here. And again, David, at the end of the day, it's your decision on how you want to handle this. With all that information, though, being said, I mean, I recommend that we pay out at least 2.5% to a buyer's agent. Are you open to that?
I mean, I see where you're coming from now, and I do have to get this property sold. So if you think that's going to help us get it moved and get it moved quickly, absolutely.
All right, perfect. Let's do it.
It's kind of hard to argue with that. You guys like what Pete said? Like, what I recommend when I send this recording out, go back and watch this recording so that you can actually say exactly what he said on that script. That was powerful. Really, really good. Thanks, Pete.
Where do you send the recording to? The Instagram?
So when you register, it will be on my Instagram, so you can go back and watch it on my Instagram page. Yes. However, I sent it out yesterday, an email talking about script practice today. In that email, there's a link where you can click and get a whole YouTube playlist of all of the previous calls. So in that email I send out every week, there's a playlist. Every single call that we've ever done is a link to a YouTube, and you can go back and watch all the recordings.
And if I could just add a quick 2 cents to that. I don't have any like formal script written out. To be honest, that's like one of the first times I've really kind of like put that into words, but I do have an outline. I have 4 steps. And if we did that again, it would sound not completely different, but it would sound different. It's not like a word for word thing. It's understanding the concept, breaking it down into easy, digestible scenarios, stories like Matt talked about, right? We built a story. You could literally see a buyer, right, talking to their agent and kind of figuring out which one. So it's like, just go through and I'll write it in the chat now, the 4 like breakdowns that I have.
Thank you.
That they went through in our office with, but it's just a matter of understanding the concept and hitting some key points. That's really what scripts are.
And here's what I'll say about what Pete did. A lot of times we get caught up. You guys know when I say WAIT, what that acronym stands for, WAIT, wait.
Why am I still talking?
Why am I talking? A lot of times we talk too much. What Pete did a great job of is making me part of that conversation and asking me questions. And he got me to say, if I'm looking at two properties that are equally yoked, one paying commission, one not paying commission, which one am I going to see? When he leads me down that road, and I admit I'm definitely all day going to see the one where I don't have to pay commission, then I've already made the argument on why I should pay commission on the sale of my house. He did his job through asking questions. So be careful about that. It's easy to just talk. However, if you're not asking questions and making the seller part of that process and getting them to answer selective questions that will lead them down the right road, then you're going to end up having an issue. Cynthia, go ahead.
I'm wondering about, you know how you have buyers now that only want to go to the listing agents already because they think they're going to get a better deal, get the inside track. So what's going to happen when people start to think, well, then I'm not going to go with you, Ms. Buyer's agent. I might as well just go straight to the listing agent, and they're already paying out, you know, the listing, so I don't have to pay. So how do we overcome the objection? Why? Of course, it has to involve with, you know, fiduciary responsibilities and representing the buyer rather than the listing agent who's representing the seller. I'm wondering if we can do some role play on that. if anybody thinks that's a
yes, I want to quickly role play that. And Brandon came back, and I had a question for Brandon. So we're going to role play that, and then I want to bounce to Brandon really quickly. So anybody want to overcome that objection? Why should I go through you? I can just go directly to the listing agent.
Come on, Brandon.
Well, I want Brandon to handle something else. So I want to save him for the next one.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, you know, when you're working with an agent, do you want to feel pressured into making a sale, making a purchase, or do you want to be able to make the time to make the right purchase?
How do you, I'm not following that logic.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, listen, we know that there's two types of agents out there. There's agents that are really just transactional and they're looking to make a sale. And then there's other agents who are relational and understand that if they do right by you, that you're going to refer friends and family, and their business is going to grow that way instead. By signing this agreement, we know that, you know, we have plenty of time to make sure that you're making the right decision. Right. Two, when we work together and we have a signed agreement to work together, it actually opens more inventory to you, right? And so what do I mean by that is regardless of whether or not it's a for sale by owner, an off-market property, or something on the MLS, I can confidently bring that to you, and we can work on what's going to, you know, work to get you to the right property, right? Now, listen, I can't tell you that working directly with the listing agent isn't going to get you the property and those kinds of things. It's definitely an option for you, and one that you're free to do if that's what you like. However, I would just ask you, Cynthia, if you went to the listing agent and you knew that you were going to get the property because the listing agent was going to get both sides of the deal and make more money, is that someone that you think you would trust their recommendation throughout the entire process if they were really looking out for themselves instead of their seller?
That's a great question. See?
It's a great question. And that's where I'm trying to go with the fiduciary responsibility thing.
Well, listen, yeah, Cynthia, at the end of the day, you can go about buying a home however you like. This is how we work because we believe it's in the best interest of our clients and the longevity. So it's totally your call. And listen, if you want to try bouncing around to some listing agents and then give me a call down the road, if it's not working out, you know, we're happy to revisit this down the road.
Okay, Pete.
Pete, really quickly, stay unmuted because Yesenia had a question on Instagram. She was saying, what if you have that seller who's just really against paying the commission to the buyer's agent? She's asking, can we say, let's do no commission for a specific time period, and then if we don't have any offers, offer commission later on? What do you think about that?
I think you go back to the timing. You know, days on market is the enemy of your home's value. Certainly you could do that. I don't know that I would be willing to do that because you're just setting yourself up for failure, because you know that in the first 2 weeks is when you're going to get the most attention, and you're shooting yourself in the foot. So, listen, I wouldn't be willing to try that. I'm sure there's agents out there who would. I just don't believe that that's going to net you the most money and really give the best experience for you.
So you're almost like, Mr. Seller, I'd rather turn you down than let you down. That's not going to work out in your favor. There are other agents who would be willing to do that, but I believe it would be a disservice to you. So I'm not willing to do that. Love that. Love that. Matt, I'm going to come to you in a second, but before we have to wrap up, Brandon, if you can unmute, I was introduced to you through Cynthia, and she told me that she heard you cover this objection that we're all concerned we're going to get, buyer agents saying, I'm not willing to sign this buyer agency agreement. And there was some example that you talked about, like when you're getting hired for a new job. And I wondered if you could kind of role play that out and tell us how you have that conversation with a buyer that's not willing to sign the buyer rep agreement. We know it's going to be law where they're going to have to, but we're still going to have people who are going to say, I'm not willing to sign that. Can we do that quick role play?
Sure, I'd be glad to.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Brandon, I listen, I do need to buy a house, but I'm not comfortable signing this buyer rep agreement.
That makes sense. Remind me again, before we go into that, you're buying a house. What's the reason we're buying the house again? Remind me of that.
Well, my wife, we have twins that are being born, and so we just need more space. My mother-in-law is moving in to help us with the kids, so we need more space in the in-law suite for her.
Right. Okay. So we got a lot of things that are going on. So this is important to you, right?
Yes.
Your family is at the center of this conversation.
Yes.
So let's think about this holistically when we're talking about buyer agency agreement. You want me to make sure that we're doing everything possible for the best interest of your family, right?
Correct. Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. And so in that situation, when we're talking about commitment and we're talking about compensation, you want to make sure that on the front end that the person who's working your interest is working for your interest and they're not thinking about how to get paid, right?
Of course.
Okay. So and if we think about that as our basis, when you have you're employed now, you have a job, right?
Of course.
Salary.
I've been working same company for almost 20 years now.
20 years now. And so what happens if one day that company comes to you and say, hey, Dave, we appreciate your service, but we don't think we want to pay you this week because you didn't get all your tasks completed. How would you feel about that?
I'm not going to be happy about that. Come on.
Yeah. Especially with two new kids, right?
Absolutely.
Mother-in-law moving in, right? So that's more food, more use, more bills, costs.
Absolutely.
So you can begin to see why it's important that the person on the other end of the table that working with you has a commitment, right?
Correct. I can see that.
Would it be valuable to you to know that the person you're working with is only committed to finding you the best house and negotiating with your best interest in mind?
Of course. I mean, I want them looking out for me. If I'm working with someone, I want them to be looking out for me and my family's best interest all day.
Absolutely. And that's what that buyer agency agreement does. Not only does it establish really a structure for how we begin to work together, right? So best practices, right? Communication, obedience, loyalty, dedication. All of that comes up front with this buyer agency agreement. You also know what your financial commitment could be, right? In this new world, you may have to pay, you may not have to pay. Isn't it important that we disclose? Would you prefer that you know those financial costs up front or at the end of the transaction?
Up front.
Up front. Yeah. That's what we established in this buyer agency agreement. So what I'm going to do is ask that you press hard because there's 3 copies.
That's closing. That's closing. And Brandon, so I heard a couple good things about you. Number one, I heard the voice was great and it's great. I love it. There was something else that you said about like, what is Cynthia tell me? I guess like if you're getting a new job and you have to sign a commitment.
An employment form.
Employment.
Yes, that's one.
Can you cover that one too? Because I really think what you said now is value, but I also think that will bring a lot of value and get people to see that getting this buyer rep agreement has a lot of value. Can we cover that one too about the employment?
Sure, absolutely. So when you're currently employed, so you have a job, now.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you got your job, you got a commitment letter from your employer.
Yeah, with the salary, all the information. Yeah.
You knew exactly up front. If that employer you started that job and it was something different, and the amount was different, would you feel differently?
Absolutely.
Would you have taken the job without a letter of employment? Would you have relocated your family?
No.
Would you have gone to Castle? Okay. Would you have rented a property for that price if you didn't have a commitment letter?
No.
Right. That commitment letter establishes our relationship and it establishes your relationship with your employer. And so that becomes the basis of how we are going to interact with each other. Not that money is the end all be all, but it's important to know that you are going to get paid. I'm not afraid or upset at the fact that I get paid because I'm going to provide you a valuable service. And that's what we focus on. If we are focused on the fact that in the absence of value, we focused on cost, we're going to be focused on the value I'm going to offer you in this transaction. And that value is going to supersede cost. So here in the buyer agency agreement, you got two places to sign, on this page and also on the next page.
Wow. You guys like that? I think we can find a way to you can make that your own. I think you guys get where he's taking you with these objection handlers. I like that a lot, man. Cynthia, thank you for inviting Brandon to the call. And I want you guys to go back and watch the video and hear what he said, because we have to have several different ways to explain why that paperwork needs to be signed. And it's so interesting. When you were talking through, I remember getting that letter and signing the commitment when I was working. And it's just like, this is what you do. We're making a commitment to each other. I'm committing that I'm paying you this salary. You're committing that you're going to show up and do this work to earn that salary. Sign. Like, I'm not moving forward without that commitment. And when you get people where it's relatable and they get where you're coming from, it's a lot easier, I would think, to convince them to sign the paperwork. I thought that was really good. Really good.
Good job.
Yeah, really good job there. Matt, I know you had your hand up and I skipped over you. Give it to me. What you got?
No, that's okay. That was a good ending note. I'll pocket what I had for next week.
So what I will say, though, he talked about, he knows his value. You guys know your value? Because when you know your value, you can stand on the 10 toes and not let someone discount what you're worth. And here's what he said. Commission is only an issue in the absence of value. You have to show value through the entire process. And you show your value by being highly scripted. Knowing scripts is not a bad thing. Scripts allow you to be consistent in everything you do and everything you say. It helps you show your value, which is why we're here on this call. So I want to say thank you to everyone who had their cameras on. I had a few of you guys hit me up and say, David, I'm willing to have my camera on. I'm driving right now. And for those people, I'm giving the pass because I want you to be safe. I don't want anybody getting in an accident because they're on this call. However, that's the exception, not the rule. The rule moving forward is that you are going to have cameras on. And I'm going to say, if you are going to be driving in the future, go to Instagram, and just listen in. So I let that pass this time around because it's a new rule. But for next week, if you know you're going to be in the car and won't be able to participate and have your camera on, I'm just going to ask you to go to Instagram and live stream and just listen to it in your car just so that you're safe. Is that fair? All right, cool. I appreciate you guys. Now, here's the question. You heard the scripting. You heard some objection handling. Are you just going to go hang up from this call and be like, well, that was good, and go back to the status quo? Or are you going to get off this call and say, I'm going to get on the phone? Like, it's time to get to it and understand that you don't have the business already because you're not making the calls. So if you get on the phone and you make the calls, even if you don't get the business, you either win or you learn. It's not failure. Failure is sitting on the sidelines and not taking action. I want you to attend this call and go out there and implement what you're learning. I want you to attend this call to get inspired and know that with the right questions and the right objection handling, you can push through and create opportunities for yourself. I wish Belaranda was on here today. I had her come in and speak to my push class yesterday. She took my push program previously, and she was sharing with them how push has helped her business. And I didn't know this when I invited her in. She was like, David, thank you. I'm working with 5 active buyers right now, and I have 5 listings right now from what I learned in push. I never had 5 listings before. I'm like, I didn't even know that was the case. And you know why she had 5 listings? Because she got on the phone and made the calls. But here's the thing that she really did. She followed up until she got the business. And I want to tell you guys, when it comes to prospecting, the business is in the follow-up. So I want you to get off this call and be committed to making calls. And I want you to be committed to doing your follow-up systematically with no call bias. You have to continue to call until they list with you or list with someone else. That's it. I don't want to get into one of my preaching seminars like last week. I'm going to shut up and just let you guys go to work. Just go to work. Do it for you. Figure out what that big why is. Figure out what your motivation is. I figured out mine. Barclay shared this quote with me. I think I told Pete about it, or I told somebody about it the other day. Barclay was in Barcelona, and he said, I got to get back so I can get back. And to me, that his motivation is traveling, just like my motivation is traveling. So when I think about getting on the phone, doing my job, I'm like, I got to go to work so I can get back to vacation. Like, what's your big why? What's important to you? I know a lot of you guys struggle with that. You don't really understand what your big why is. I mean, for me, see, I'm about to start preaching again.
Go for it.
Find your why. Find your why. Exactly, Pete. I've never read that book. It's something you recommend that people read. Find your why.
So this is a follow up to Start With Why, which you probably maybe have heard about. I have TED Talk, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
I got to say, I wasn't even gonna sure about reading. I'm so glad I read the book. It's probably one of the most impactful books I've ever read. And then this is like a follow up. This is like a workbook on how to help you go through the exercises of actually finding your why. So
there are a few people I know on here who are looking for their why. Maybe guys pick that book up. You know who you are. That might be a good book. I see you smiling. All right, so let me stop. Let me just say this. I was having a conversation with Michelle, and often we go sit outside after dinner and we talk. That's our time to really connect. And we sometimes will sit outside and we just kind of look around and we're like, this is us. This is our lives. Look at what we've created together. And we talk about how we were able to do that, because Michelle and I both came from nothing. We can get into that story later on. But the reason I believe we got to where we were is because we were both hungry. We still are. And there's so many things that we want to do and the life that we want to set up for our daughters. I would come home every day and I would just look at my day like, did I show up? And if I didn't show up at 100%, I would ask myself, why? And then I would tell myself, no excuse. Tomorrow, I got to show up. I got to put the work in. It's on me. I don't have anybody to fall back on. If we aren't making money, I don't have a parent that can actually help us out. We're taking care of our parents. So we have our kids that we're responsible, and we have our parents that we're taking care of. There's no one to fall back on. It's all on us. And so we don't have this choice to be lackadaisical. We got to get to work. So we have our big why. We know what our big why is. And I want to be proud of myself every single day. I want to know that I showed up for me and my big why. And I want you to feel the exact same way. If you come home and you've done more busy work focusing on the 80% and your 20% isn't being touched, that's not sustainable. And that's the reason why 87% of real estate agents fell out in 3 years, is because they're not doing the one job that we have as real estate agents. And that's to lead gen and prospect. You may not know what to say. I didn't know what to say when I started. Pete didn't know what to say when he got started. Brandon didn't know what to say. We figured it out because we got out there and we learned. You either win or you learn. There's no failure. The failure is in not trying. So I just wanted to tell you guys to get out there just for you. You will never fail. The failure is in not trying. I guess that's all I have. I appreciate you guys. Y'all go get after it.
Thanks, David.
Let me know if you get some wins this week. And I'm going to give you guys the same challenge I gave the morning mindset call. Call a FSBO this week. All right. Not Pete. Call a FSBO, a real FSBO. Call an actual for sale by owner and book a preview. If they have an open house, stop by their open house. If you drive past a for sale by owner, stop taking a picture of the sign, pull your car over and go knock on the door and introduce yourself. You're a local realtor. Your job is to know all the inventory, not what's just on the multiple listing service. I haven't seen your home. Can I get a preview? Put yourself in the middle of someone who's looking to sell their home. They have their hand raised. They're telling you, I got a house to sell. And you guys are circle prospecting and making calls to people who may or may not have to sell their home, when there are tons of people with their hands raised saying, I have a house to sell. Stop driving by those people. Pull over and knock on the door. Pick up the phone and call them. They need your help. They just don't know it yet. And the National Association of Realtors tells us 90% of them end up listing with agents. The key is they're not going to call you. You got to go meet them. You got to call them. You got to go find out their motivation and go win those opportunities. So go get after it. I got to go. I'm taking my daughter to go see Deadpool this morning, so gonna go have some fun with the kiddo. But y'all be good. Thank you for being here this morning. I'll talk to you later on. And everybody on Instagram, thanks for being here. Maybe next time you guys will join us on Zoom and actually role play. See y'all later.